Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is nurturing connection. We don't really grow or thrive in isolation and in a place of disconnection. So today we're going to talk about the ways that we can connect and how that connection supports us in our greater expression, in our thriving, in our growth. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present, right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to be here with you this morning. So, nurturing connection. When we're in isolation, when we're reliant just upon ourselves, when we're disconnected from our environment and from others around us, it's very easy to spiral, to be in an echo chamber of our own making, and we can spiral into very dark places. And this sense of disconnection can feed that darkness. So there are multitudes of ways to be connected, even if we don't have lots of other present human contact, direct contact. We can also create connection, and many of us do so in a less than positive way through social media, for example, or maybe some of us have a healthy relationship with social media where we're able to communicate with people from a virtual place, even through this is pushing it, obviously, but even through TV or radio or podcasts or books, we're creating more of a connection, walking with nature, walking in nature, allowing ourselves to extend ourselves into our surrounding environment allows us a sense of connection and connectedness. And if we can recognize that there's an importance to connection, we can actually deliberately take action that is connecting, such as when we think of someone, something as simple as just reaching out to say, I'm thinking of you. You never know how that connection is going to be received. Something as simple as smiling to a stranger is creating a communication and a connection. And it may be that these connections, however subtle they may seem, are all part of a network, an energetic network that feeds us in ways that might not be obvious. And I've mentioned that I'm listening to Finding the Mother Tree, a book by Suzanne Simard, talking about all the interconnections within a forest and the communications through mycelial networks of nutrients and signals, information as well as nourishment. And some of these connections are subtle, but essential. And I think that we are, given the challenges of the times that we live in, cultivating connection, nurturing connection becomes ever that much more important. Connection with our communities, connection with our tribe, so to speak, the people that we resonate with. It's ironic that with all these virtual vehicles for connection, we can be more disconnected than ever and more isolated. And I think it's important to pay attention to our own need for connection. It can be even just in proximity, to put ourselves in situations where there are other people or animals or nature, whatever, to put ourselves in situations where there's a relationship, even if it's subtle, even if it's this very filament-like kind of energetic exchange, to not get so wrapped up in our own isolated world, in our own cocoon, that we end up with a sort of a stilted sort of balance of our own. Like if we're by ourselves, if we're isolated all the time, then there's not an exchange. I guess what I'm talking about is that in this connection, what's happening? There's an exchange of energy, ideally an exchange of ideas, of emotion, and that exchange doesn't have to necessarily happen in a verbal way. So, for example, I'm thinking back on my trip to Asheville, North Carolina. Every Friday, I guess, I don't know if it's year long, but at least in the spring and summer, every Friday night, there's a drum circle, weather permitting. And so here, lots and lots of people gather and play music together. And the connection that's nurtured and nourished through the shared rhythms of the music, through the collective intention, is a super powerful source of connection. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you joining us this morning. We're talking about connection and how nurturing connection nurtures us. So what does that look like? When we nourish ourselves through our exchange with others. And I guess we all have different degrees of need for that kind of connection. But like this conversation in the morning is connecting. And Rosalind, when you're here, to be able to just interact with you, even, it feels more direct, more connected. When anyone else is joining us, to be able to be having that engagement is a really powerful and empowering thing um, to be connecting with someone rather than just sort of speaking out into the ethers or feeling un un I want to say untethered, but that's not the right word, because it's just feeling disconnected. It's interesting when we think about getting directions. We need the destination point, but you can't get to the destination without knowing where you are. You need at least 2 points, right? So for connection, you need at least 2 points. And in having those 2 points, it helps us to orient ourselves. So I'm wondering, what kinds of things do you do in your life to create connection? It could be just thinking of someone and holding love for them. Or it could be making a phone call. It could be sending a text. It could be going to visit with someone. What kinds of things do you do that create connection? And what impact does that connection have for you? When you experience the connection, what does that provide you with? What's different? I don't know about you, but I notice that I often think better by talking, like in communication with somebody, in conversation with somebody. That's when I often discover more of what's going on with me. Or if I write, perhaps, that gives me a way to discover more ideas, to think things through, to talk things out. Works as a strategy for me. I know that's not the case for everybody, but I imagine that there are others out there that also manage to noodle things through more thoroughly, more effectively by talking them out. Like that there's a generative energy that helps stimulate that process. And when we are isolated, we can tend, like, it's not that we don't have inner dialogue. Pretty much all of us has inner dialogue, and oftentimes it's not the most positive or generative kind of inner dialogue. And when left to our own devices, we can be just going down the rabbit hole of this dark place where we're repeating messaging to ourselves that isn't so empowering. So Rosalind says, FaceTime with my niece and talk to her while she's having breakfast. Oh, that's awesome. It makes me feel like I'm part of her life. They say and do hilarious things. That's so cool, Rosalind. Very, very cool. FaceTime is amazing. Zoom is amazing. I remember as a kid, they were talking about video phone being able to have conversation with video. And I remember, it's so funny, I remember being horrified at the idea because somebody could call you at any time and there would be the video. It hadn't occurred to me at that point that you could turn off the video, that you could just do audio, for example. But now it's so fundamental a part of our daily existence with all kinds of video communication and Zoom and FaceTime and video in WhatsApp now too, and all different platforms. It's pretty fascinating. It's also it to see how this was something that was amazing, is amazing to me actually, to recognize how deep a connection can be formed through virtual communication, through video chat, for example. So for my core connection practice, I see all my clients over video, over Zoom. And so many of these people I had worked with for more than a year and had never actually met in real life, we'll say. And the intimacy of that connection, despite the fact that we had never physically been in one another's presence, is really quite remarkable. So what's happening with that connection? I remember a time when I was in college, I took a philosophy class. And in that philosophy class, it became really clear to me that our words, that we don't have the same meanings for the words that we use. It's remarkable that we're able to communicate anything with any kind of clarity, right? Because I can say I love you and you can say I love you, and we can have very different experiences of what those words mean. And it became such a source of confusion for me to be able to face the communication divide in a way that I had any confidence, that I actually just stopped talking for a while. Like I would start saying something and then I would just stop. It was like the self-consciousness of the communication was paralyzing. And the frustration of being able or not knowing that we had enough commonality to convey what I might have been trying to convey. And then I took a theosophy class and started understanding better that the bulk of our communication is not through the words that we use, but through the tonality, through the expression, through proximity. And there's all different ways that the communication is carried that is not bound by the words that we use. And so when we think about communication, we can expand our understanding of it to include these other dimensions of connection, which happen through expression, which happen through a glance, which happen through laughter, and even just through holding an emotion and in your heart, like love. I tend to think that love gets communicated, even if you're not necessarily in the physical presence of the other person. I've told the story before where my dad and I had were in a snit with each other. We had had a fight and we're both very stubborn. And it was very likely that we wouldn't talk to each other for weeks. And I just allowed myself to get really present to how much I loved him, and just sent sort of a love bomb, a love sprinkling or balloon or whatever, love confetti. And he called me and he said, all he said was, I love, love, love you. And so there was a really pure and beautiful communication that happened even from a distance. And that communication was this deep sense of connection. And so we can have connection beyond circumstance. I guess the foundation idea here around connection is that we extend beyond ourselves, that we extend into our surroundings, that we extend into or outward to reach connection with the world and with other people. And we get to choose, knowing that these connections are lifelines. Going back to the mother tree, finding the mother tree, the trees that had the underground mycelial network connections and the connections between their roots and the mycelium and other trees, they were the trees that thrived. The trees whose roots were bound in balls that could not extend out into the greater network were the ones that withered and died. And so I guess the thought is to not underestimate the power of connection. And when you think of someone, that's a connection, let them know. Let them know. You don't know what's going to happen. That person could be in a difficult place, and just hearing from you can lift them from a place that they might have been floundering. So the connections that we make nurture us as well as nurturing others. And we can collectively cultivate these connections as a way of nurturing our own growth and development and vitality. So this my business, my process is called Core Connection, and I'm talking about reaching outward in connecting to the world and to other people. And at the same time, we also want to be able to reach inward, to call forth our connection with ourselves, because we often exile parts of ourselves. We often deny parts of ourselves, or reject or judge or vilify parts of ourselves. And so if we can allow ourselves to connect with compassion and curiosity with ourselves and with others and the world around us, there's a much richer opportunity for us to find wholeness, to find strength and to find comfort. So Dido says, I've been so blessed to experience the core connection with Mira as my transformational coach. Words fail me as to how amazing it is. Dido, thank you, thank you. I love you so much. It has been, the core connection work is just such a beautiful mutual journey. I think I get as much from my clients as they do from me. And it is such a privilege to be able to connect with people on such a deep level, to be able to create a deep and authentic relationship that lifts hearts, you know, both of us, both sides, so to speak. So thank you so much for that, Dido, and thank you for the time that we spent together in that coaching context. It's enriched my life, and I'm so glad to have you, to call you friend. So anyway, let's cultivate connections. Let's nurture those connections, because when we nurture our connections, those connections nurture us. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And until next time, so much love to you.